Welcome back, Facebook and YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about some very important and interesting things surrounding the two musicians, celebrities, Tupac and Michael Jackson. And I've been thinking about these two celebrities lately. I don't know why, but I believe one of the reasons in particular when it comes to Tupac, I've been listening to a lot of his lyrics lately, and I've been seeing a lot of parallels between Tupac, Bob Marley, Michael Jackson, and a lot of more celebrities who were killed by the elite. And I've come to some startling revelations that I want to share with you guys today. So, why do I believe Tupac was killed? This is just one of the big reasons. There are many reasons why I believe he was killed, and some of those reasons gonna blow you away today. So when you understand, first of all, how powerful Tupac was and how powerful Michael Jackson was as musicians, we're talking about two people who had more power than any president would ever have over the people. And not only did they have that much power over the people, but that power wasn't limited to any race. And that power also came with a level of trust and respect and genuineness and sincerity that they shared with the people. And whenever you have men like that, that's a threat to the New World Order elite agenda. But now I'm gonna go in detail and show y'all how deep this rabbit hole go. So in order to fully understand how deep this rabbit hole go, one thing you got to lock in your mind, what I always tell y'all before we go deep into this video, remember that the elite plan years ahead of the masses. They have their plans drawn out for the next couple of centuries, y'all. They play chess and they get you to play checkers. And nowadays, we're not even playing that. Okay, they've dumbed us down so much. But what I'm saying here is they are years ahead of us, outthinking the way they think society is going to go. And what they have done with sociology and things of that nature is actually learn how to shape society into what they would have it be. So they have scientists that go out and shape society and seed ideas and different fashion trends and ideologies and just all kind of things you can imagine into society to shape it for certain purposes and to prime it for certain agendas that may not come into years in the future. They're playing chess. One move is for another move that they got coming maybe 20 years later. And you even forget what the first move was all about. But with this concept in mind about thinking to the future and how the elite plan our futures in attempts to bring forth their new world order, because this is an order that's been in the work for millennia, and it's deeper than the Zionist Jews. You got to reach the level of the real puppeteers at the top of that triangle. We get to the Jesuits and even above that, okay? But what I want to talk about today concerning Tupac is very deep, because when we talk about planning for the future and anything that would threaten the elite's NWO agenda that they still have in the works, they will annihilate that threat. And if that threat shows itself today, they will get rid of that threat today. And if they see that there is no threat today, but there may be a potential threat 10 years from now in an individual, they do preventative measures. This is what I mean about planning ahead. So just for example, they may see a certain speaker today with a certain message that will really crush theirs. And they know that in a few years, this speaker is going to gain a lot of attention. And they will go ahead and attack that person in a lot of ways. They do to attack you, to silence you, and even go so far as to murder you. A lot of times we say, why are the elite honed in on this particular individual? Like some of these people they hone in on, we never heard of these people till they mention them. You'd be like, who are these people? Because they foresee the threat coming years ahead before you see it. And a lot of our revolutionaries think on that level, just like Tupac. He was a chess player. If you go back and listen to a lot of his interviews, he spoke about starting a political party. That right there is one of the main things I think what made him a target. He'll tell you himself that he had a big mouth, and some things, when you got a plan against the elite, you want to kind of keep a lot of things secret as far as what you're going to do, which leads to something very deep, keeping in mind how the elite thinking into the future. We're going to talk about Tupac here because Tupac is a very unique artist, and him and Michael Jackson have this uniqueness in common, and I'm going to explain. You see, Tupac attacked the media, and I'm going to read to you some of his lyrics from a song, Only God Can Judge Me. So during the time Tupac spoke these lyrics, what we call consciousness was not on a level that it is today. In other words, Tupac was so ahead of his time. A lot of the conscious communities today that's built on exposing the Jewish media and their agenda are Johnny come latelys when you really think about rappers like Tupac, who we overlook. In one of his lyrics, he said, recollect your thoughts. Don't get caught up in the myths, because the media is full of dirty tricks. Now, if you look at my channel and you're conscious now, a lot of you didn't understand how corrupt the media was until you ended up on a lot of these quote unquote conspiracy theory channels, okay? And you saw a lot of crisis actors and videos. You were exposed to a different side of the media you're not always exposed to, because the internet connects us all. And boy, when you put cameras in the hands of millions of citizens, we catch some things all the time that they don't want us to catch. So YouTube has exposed a lot of the deception. But what I want to point out is that before YouTube, okay, before the big conspiracy teachers and the truthers out here that's doing this thing through YouTube, salute to all of us, hats off to all of us. But it's kind of easy to spread truth today because we're using their own technology against them. They didn't expect us to be at this level of consciousness that we are today. And don't get me wrong, the majority of us are still dumbed down. What I'm saying here is that a lot of the things we're doing today in the conscious communities, so conveniently, there were celebrities, musicians like Tupac saying the same message. Like I just read to you his lyrics. He told you the media is full of dirty tricks before you even saw any crisis actor videos. Celebrities like Tupac was already exposed to this type of media deception because they work hand in hand with Hollywood. Tupac, we say he was connected with the Illuminati at one point, then he turned on them. We can argue that, whether he was part of them or never was part of them. That's something that I don't want to get into right now. I want to point out the deep stuff, okay? That surface stuff. One thing we all say is that because eventually he went against them and he was for the people. So let's just go with that. We all can agree on that. They don't for nothing. Tupac had one of those, he was that kind of person with that kind of spirit where even if he was part of the elite, being the kind of spirit he is of rebellion, he could never go against the people. You saw his heart and his soul and his lyrics and his music. I'm an artist myself. A lot of these lyrics reflect the soul of that person. Now today that's not the case because everybody's someone else and no one's the same. They all sounding like putting on the front. But back then when people was putting their heart in their music, they was giving you a real piece of them. So when we go back and examine the truth that Tupac said in his music, it still stands today. And I'm going to reveal so much to you with that truth. Like I said, Tupac was into politics. Unlike a lot of your famous rappers today, when you talk about Young Thug, when they ask him about politics, he said, man, look here, leave that crap for the politicians. I mean, rappers are so much dumbed down today. Some of the stuff Tupac said, way far ahead of his time. What I want to point out is, I mentioned earlier about the elite planning so far into the future and getting rid of any threats that they think will be a potential threat to their New World Order agenda in the future. I'm going to make a statement right now that I really want you guys to think about. If Tupac was alive today, Barack Obama would have never been president. Think about that. I want you to really think about what I'm about to say. When Barack Obama came into office on the scene, we never heard of him. Black people never heard of this man. We clung on to him just because he was black. That's all. And black people will tell you, most of us, the only reason we voted for him just because he was black and we wanted a black president. But I want y'all to think about something. If Tupac was running for president during the time Barack Obama was running for president, you think Barack would have won over Tupac? Hell no. Tupac would have won over Barack by a landslide. And even if he would have re-ran against Trump, I believe he would have beat Trump. You see, Tupac was the kind of person that appealed his message across to all races. But the particular people in those races Tupac targeted was a particular people that I talk about all the time on this channel called the have-nots, which is a race within themselves. Don't matter what, quote unquote, your skin color is, what race you're from, when you realize that in all, quote unquote, races, there's a group of people called the have-nots. And that's a big thing that we all have in common. And when you add up all those people across the world that's called a have-nots, that's almost the entire earth. So we've been ruled by a very small few. And Tupac spoke up about those few. And a lot of us wasn't even familiar with the term Illuminati until Tupac brought it up. Until Tupac made it common. He generalized it. He made it famous. He turned it in. He put a K in front of it and made it Illuminati. He put the concept of Illuminati into the minds of the people. He gave you an enemy, whereas prior to that, most of us was just saying the government. So even though we know that there are elite groups above the Illuminati themselves, he gave us something beyond just the government. And he sent most of us that's just from the hood who wasn't aware to all the deep consciousness and the literature and information out there. He sent us on research, on a quest for research. See, most of us from the ghettos already have this anti-establishment mindset. We don't trust the government or authority because we've dealt with them in negative ways and saw the deception firsthand. Tupac exposed this on a level that it appealed to all races, and even certain rich people sympathized the way he delivered this message, which made him such a threat. You see, he came along during a time where this message wasn't supposed to come. He was one of those souls that was ahead of his time. So when I talk about him running for presidency against Barack Obama, understand that the New World Order is the elite's attempt to unite all of the people under their world order. But what a lot of our musicians and celebrities who were killed by these NWO elitists stood for was a different kind of New World Order where the people unite by themselves and we go against the elite New World Order agenda. So there's two kind of unifications here. One where we need to unite based on our things we have in common, such as all of us getting sprayed with chemtrails, all of us getting poisoned with vaccinations, all of us getting mind screwed. All of us have in common the have-nots. So that kind of unification would be great where we do it by choice based on we share the same common enemy. There's another kind of New World Order that they have been trying to bring forth, and it's a synthetic form of uniting under their dogmas and religions, which would really turn into a form of extermination. That's the NWO elite agenda that Tupac was trying to expose. You see, Tupac had the mind and hearts of the people. Musicians have something that presidents don't have. They have the power of poetry and the music, the rhythm, the drum. Any musician that ends up running for president has a great chance of winning. All right. And this is another reason they want to keep a lot of celebrities away from that. They don't want a lot of celebrities even dealing with politics of having political lyrics. And this is why a lot of the infiltration we see in the Jewish hip hop dumbing down, and a lot of your rappers today, they've substituted the content and the lyrical content and all of that for rhythm and just High pitch old stupidity type lyrics. You know how everybody just sound the same and it's a bunch of dumb watered down crap all over the internet. The new sound, like I tell my brother, whack is the new hot. And no content and just, they don't even want you rapping on beat. It got to sound dumb, like you off beat and like this Lil Yachty type form of stupidity that's on a synthetic rhythm, because the hi-hats all over the place sounding like robots that a human could never do. So your music is turned to some destructive form of literature that goes against you in nature. What Tupac represented in music was a form of unification that is a big threat to their NWO agenda. When you talk about the concept of thug life, it's the same concept of one love that got Bob Marley. Think about something. Anybody coming along that's talking unity amongst have-nots, they gonna be killed. Like I told you, Malcolm X screamed black power his whole life, and he was only for blacks. When he went to the Middle East and started worshiping Allah with different shades of skins and saw a unity over there that they hid from us over here, guess what? He came back to America with his own concepts. His mind became aware to the deception, and he was willing to work with different people after that. And they had to kill Malcolm because that was the threat. The plan over here under all of these consciousness schools of thoughts and Nation of Islam, Morris School, is to get black people into one form of dogma and a separative type divisive mindset that only feeds your ego but never strike your enemy, just stroke your ego. Okay, you never make progress, you just get a bunch of pride. They cool with that. They cool with the black power screaming in the protest, long as there's no real progression. So Tupac represented progress because he spoke about politics, and he was one of those people that can, you talking about a brother from the East Coast who moved to the West Coast. And when he moved over to the West Coast, being from the East Coast, you would think there would be some kind of rejection, but no. The kind of person Tupac was, there was open arms to the point where they would tell you Tupac can go to each gang set neighborhood. Can't too many rappers do that, y'all. A lot of these rappers can't go back to their own damn neighborhood. Did you hear what I just said? A lot of these rappers can't go back to their own hood. You saw what happened with Soulja Boy and Chris Brown faking in front like they from the Fruit Town hood and got exposed. Tupac was one of those people who really could walk through any damn gang set in LA and have a 40 with him. He can lead a Crip hood and go to the Blood hood and it'll still be love. Then he can go to the damn Mexicans and Serenos hood and get love. Do you understand how much power that is, people? Tell me who can do that today. Tupac had the kind of people on his side who represent the majority of American votes, y'all. You better understand what I'm trying to tell you here. A man with that kind of power at his damn age, already thinking about going into politics and already got this much power over the people. The man had enough secured votes in his early 20s to win a presidential campaign if he would have ran at that time. This man was still young. Y'all got to keep that in mind and go back and listen to the way he was talking. He was too far ahead of his time. And he was already talking about getting into politics. Can you imagine if they tried to get their black president? Because they needed this black president now to come. They would have never, ever been able to get Barack Obama into office with Tupac running. You better think about what I'm saying now. Ain't no way. Now, when Barack Obama was running, who else was running? A black dude called Herman Cain. He got a few votes, but it was ridiculous in comparison to how Barack won. It was almost embarrassing. He shouldn't have even had a campaign. But basically, I brought up Herman Cain to show you that when Barack Obama ran for president, he wasn't the only black man running. There was another black man named Herman Cain, and he was this Uncle Tom type black dude. You know, they both on the same team. He was just a little puppet to be some opposition. It's all a big circus act. But what I'm saying is, think about Barack Obama and instead of Herman Cain, Tupac. Think about that, y'all. We never heard of no damn Barack Obama. We never heard of him. But everybody had love for Tupac and felt. And you know what? Think about it. We the people the ones casting the votes. We are the ones hoping we get a president in power who can make things better for the people at the bottom. This is the rhetoric presidents sell us when they running. Every president with their rich behinds get up on the stand trying to appeal to the have-nots. Again, it's this group of people who make up the whole world because we're being ruled over by a small few. So keep that term in mind, the have-nots. Okay, we vote for the people who ruin us because we don't have no other options. There's no genuine candidates that really want to help us. What I'm telling you is that Tupac would have been one of those genuine candidates. And for those people who want to come on this video talking about Donald Trump is all right, you know you got to be a fool. Trump and Hillary are cousins, y'all. They all on the same team. Do your research. Presidents change, the policy don't, because each president is their puppet. But again, if you got somebody like Tupac, see, why do so many celebrities get assassinated? Because they're in a position where they know different than a candidate, a presidential candidate. And what the presidents spend millions and millions of dollars on campaigns to make themselves known to the people and to make their message known to the people. Whereas, just think if Tupac was running for president, he won't need no money on a campaign because he's already known to the people. They know who Tupac is. We know what his message is. You got all of his albums. And if you somebody living in America struggling, being oppressed by the powers, that's a doggone good president for you right there. And it's not a president that you would question. It's not a president that you would say, I wonder, is he really for the people? If Tupac was president, you know he would be for the people because he come from amongst the people. He struggled with us. He was a victim of this Americanization, and he expressed the struggle of the people genuine in his music and connected that struggle with all people. Again, he connected the have-nots. How did he do that? Under a word called thug life. Now, the elites attacked that. They attacked it when he was popular during that time. They came out with a bunch of media attacking thugs and the whole thug life concept, when you tune in to what Tupac was teaching with the thug life concept, he was going to ghettos and talking to gangsters. We talking about kids who walking outside blowing each other brains out. And what Tupac had to do was appeal to a generation who I'm talking about had been so dumbed down and full of self-hate based on the system that they were in. And he had to go undo that. But the only way you can undo that is to connect with these young men on their level. You can't go to the damn ghetto dressed up like TD Jakes with your Bible talking all that sweet talk. They're going to run you up out of there quick. You got to keep it real with them and connect with them on the level that you know you was on. So the best way to do it is, even though you evolved and you real mature, if you were to talk to these kind of people, you would have to kind of go stoop down to their level to bring them up to yours. The same way a grown teacher goes to college universities to learn to be a school teacher. You go to college to learn to be a school teacher, but let's just say you teach kindergarten. You don't go and teach your kindergarten class like how your professor taught you. You go and teach those kindergarten students with toys and music, and you stoop down to a child's level to teach a child. You don't go teach kindergarten class like you teaching a bunch of college sophomores. You got to stoop down to their level to teach them. That's the same thing Tupac did. He was from among that element. He related to it, but the threat he had to the elite was that he represented the transitioning of that whole thug life element from a self-destructive state as a collective to a anti-establishment where we aim all of this negative energy we would have toward your brother to the left of you toward the people who ruining you at the top of this power pyramid. And he represented that in a term called Illuminati. And what Tupac did was, when you think about uniting all the people, it's gonna be a big effort, and it's not gonna be done by one person. Like Tupac ain't gonna unite all of the have-nots. It's gonna be different people that unite different elements of the have-nots into subgroups that's come all under one big umbrella. Just like all of the Crip sets come under one umbrella called Crip. Now let me break this down to you. What I mean is that Tupac was uniting all of those have-nots that represented the young thug element, the gangster culture type element, that young energy, that fearless energy, that energy that will walk up on a police officer, you know, like we seen when the police was getting crazy with in the media, they were showing us the police shootings, how the police had to protect themselves. He represented the element that's out there protesting. The young ones with their feet on the ground in Chicago, who Farrakhan is trying to get behind. Tupac would be the voice of all of this element. So understand how powerful this is, right? Tupac would be the black man that represented all of the black youth and even a lot of the black adult, which is a very unique and populous group of people to represent and be the voice of and the leader of. And with just that element alone, you got the black community, the have-nots, the Mexicans, even the poor whites. This is the bulk of your vote. This is like 80% of all of your votes. It's a group of people oppressed by this small percentage of power at the top that's creating the illusion. And again, when you look at Tupac lyrics, he tell you in his lyrics that the media is full of lies. The same thing we telling y'all in 2-3 hour long videos of crisis actors, and people still don't get it. Tupac was able to tell you that in one lyric, and millions of people get it. That's the power of the music and the musician. So understand that if he wouldn't have been killed back then, I really don't believe Barack Obama be president today. What you're about to get ready to hear now is an awesome video that's going to show many of you inside the life of Tupac and going to prove to you a lot of the things that I've been saying in this presentation. In this small interview clip, what you're going to hear is Tupac talk about empowerment, in particular the Chicago area. You see, there's something very special about Chicago. I don't know if y'all know, but there's a big concentration of black people in Chicago. Chicago means a lot to Democratic votes, to the liberal vote. And you will see that's why Donald Trump is doing a lot of work in Chicago and talking about working in Chicago. We know with the heavy concentration of blacks there, there's hella gangs and hella violence that's plagued that city for many years. Chirac didn't become Chirac today. It was Chirac ever since the old days, even in Tupac time. But in this interview, you're going to see that Tupac was already aware of the Chirac epidemic, and he was putting his feet on the ground in Chicago before we even heard of Senator Obama. Did you hear what I just said? Tupac had his feet on the ground in Chicago doing work before we even heard of no senator named Obama who came from Chi-Town to become president today. What you about to hear is very important. You're going to hear how much power he had over the gangs, not only in California, but in Chi-Town. When he was in Chicago, all of the sets wanted him to get down with their set. But Tupac said no, because Tupac had a plan to unite all of the sets. With no further ado, you check out the video for yourself.
Yeah, we need power, man.
I'm telling you, hey, dig it, man. You know,
Hey, I'm telling you, we got power, man. Yeah, we need power. Power is numbers, and it's like we rappers, man. While we don't have, we got the juice, we just ain't doing nothing with it.
Because it ain't collectivized. Right. I tell you what. Did you see them cats in Chicago? I think they was GDs.
Yeah.
They put people in the street.
I know they be looking out for me when I come out there.
And they be running. They be running people on the ticket like for councilman.
I know they got them. This dude, what's his name? some nigga they just had out there, but he lost.
Yeah, Gator.
He came close. Gator, yeah. He came close though.
Yeah, there was some good cats too, man.
I went out there, they be looking out for me, but they be gang so like the one set want me to be down with them, and the Blackstones want me to be with them, and GDs be with them, but yeah, I had to run it with them in Milwaukee because that was when that little kid died, Yummy Sandiford.
Yeah, I heard you sent a shout out to him.
Yeah, I had to do the show that next day after they just killed that kid. Yeah. Because you heard what happened, right?
Yeah, they executed him.
Right, they executed him, and I was out there, and when I did the show, the gang was in the fucking audience. The whole gang had like bought out the stadium.
Damn.
So I'm rapping to the niggas that just killed this little kid.
Oh.
And they all screaming out Thug Life, and I felt bad, like, wait a minute, they got it twisted.
Yeah.
So I started cursing them niggas out, like, y'all niggas cowards, y'all killed that kid, y'all niggas is punks, man, I hate all you niggas, I hurt all you. Them niggas start throwing shit, we had to shoot out in the stadium.
Damn.
It was tough, man, the whole gang tore up the whole neighborhood. But then I started getting letters from that area where all, like, the mothers, the girls was writing me, like, thank you for doing that, because everybody's scared of these niggas. See, that's what I want to do.
That's right.
I want to, if these gang niggas ain't gonna get straight, then I want to take them out the gang.
That's real.
Because if they don't, it's making trouble on us.
Yeah, because if you ain't part of the solution, then you part of the problem.
No doubt.
Therefore, you gonna be trying to whack us anyway.
No doubt.
See what I'm saying? So shit, you know, business as usual.
That's how I feel.
But just for the forces of good, man. You know, I'm with all that, Pac. You know, anytime, anything I can do, brother. You know, that's what I'm about, man. I've always been less of a talker, more of a doer.
All good.
And you know, I mean, that ain't, you know, that's just my style, man.
Yeah, no doubt. You talk to Bone?
So if you're still not convinced of how powerful this young man was, and we're talking about a young man in his early 20s talking like this, you got to keep that in mind. You live in a world today where there's 50-year-old men that talk so immature, I don't even want to be around them. And it's sad you can't learn from your elders. You got a bunch of silly. It's like we're growing young. You look up and see a young man like Tupac, and the way he was talking in his early 20s beats the way some of these cats talking in their 60s and 70s today. You see why they had to kill somebody this bright. This man was far ahead of his time. Keep in mind how young Tupac was talking like this, talking politics and having a strategy for the campaign. In his early 20s, people, and having the power and influence to bring it to fruition. So now what I'm going to share with you is his final interview he made before he died. This gonna reveal so much to you guys. Now in this video, he talks about the Illuminati and putting the K in front of Illuminati. He talks about how they using Farrakhan to deceive black people. Now I talk about that on a lot of my videos, the Nation of Islam deception, and how Farrakhan is a deceiver for black people. He's working with the elite. Tupac knew about that way back then when they was trying to make the Nation of Islam popular. See, Nation of Islam is a group that they trying to give black people so they can give us some form of unity and kind of, well, we don't make it on our own and it be genuine. So when you understand who started the NOI, you'll understand why it's a group that was made to counteract the real unified group that would bring black people change. Tupac understood that. In his interview, he gonna say, hey man, if these higher ups wanted to kill you, if the Illuminati wanted you dead, why would they tell Farrakhan? Remember, Farrakhan always on all these videos telling us what's supposed to be going on and getting us all riled up for this and that. Tupac was saying back then, it don't make sense. Why would they tell Farrakhan? You see, Tupac knew how evil the media was. He saw people like Farrakhan playing both sides of the fence. They had to get rid of Tupac because when he saw this deception, he couldn't keep quiet like a lot of more people. He talked about it. He saw how Farrakhan and people like him was saying one thing to blacks, but having friends and having relationships with the same people they talk about on the next hand. If you look at Farrakhan's relationship with the media, like I said, it's a great relationship, better than some of these actors. He's got contracts with CNN and a lot of people to air the Million Man March and more things. It's a monetized revolution that benefits one person, not black people. So understand that. And also you'll see Tupac was aware of that, just like Malcolm X. But last but not least, The one thing he mentioned at the end of the interview was he was going to start a political party. He was very serious about starting a political party, and one thing he iterated was that this political party wouldn't just be for black people only. He said this political party would be for Mexicans, Asians, and pretty much all of the people at the bottom that I'm telling y'all about, the have-nots. Everything I say is everything this young man died for, and he was ahead of his time. They had to get rid of him thinking like that. So enjoy this interview. It was Tupac's final interview.
I enforce my strength, my mind strength. That's what's more important to me now. The niggas see that this is not no accident. I plotted every single step from this to this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything's plotted.
It's ill that the next shit is called Illuminati, because that's really what the Illuminati's on.
That's why I put the K to it. Because I want the niggas is telling me about this Illuminati shit while I'm in jail, right? Like, the dollars.
Right.
That's another way to keep your self-esteem low. That's another way to keep you unconfident.
Right.
And I'm putting the K because I'm killing that Illuminati shit. Trust me, if these motherfuckers wanted to kill you, why the fuck they gonna tell Farrakhan? Why they gonna tell the Nation of Islam? Why they gonna tell this nigga in jail about the plan? How did he know?
Right.
How did it leak to him? Who told him? Who told him? The Pope? By the next election, I promise, I'm gonna be sitting across from all the candidates. I bet you. You know how I be making it? I promise you. I'm not even gonna be, I'm gonna be so far from where I am now in 4 years. God willing, I'm alive. It's on. I guarantee you, we will have our own political party. And it won't be just for black people. It's going to be for Mexicans. It's going to be for Mexicans. It's going to be for black people. It's going to be for Armenians. I don't give a fuck. All you lost tribe motherfuckers right now, we need to have our own political party because we all have the same motherfucking problem. We built this nation and we get none of the benefits.
You see, Tupac had reached a very unique position in his success, but an unfortunate thing where he was being attacked by the media on a level that many of your celebrities don't know about. They didn't reach the kind of level where Tupac reached, where you're targeted and these people want you dead and it's a matter of time before they can find a way to kill you. But in the meantime, all they can do is try to kill you publicly. You see, before the elite shoot any bullets at you, the first bullets they shoot is against your character in the media, because they have to make it to where they can try to turn the people against you, where when you are killed, no one will care. In other words, they have to paint Osama bin Laden as this terrorist to you so they can have a reason for you to be okay with them going and kill him, when really you didn't hear his side of the story, which is necessary before we make such decisions. Anyway, Tupac understood how evil the media was and the limits of deception they would go to. Today, if Tupac was alive, he would be a flat earther, because Tupac was the type soul, he would not accept anything coming from those lying bastards. They hated Tupac because of that. Michael Jackson as well. And I'm going to prove to you in this video that Michael Jackson was a flat earther, and he was very aware of the bee goddess and the mother goddess that I teach about all the time. But that might have to go into part 2 if I go over my time. Staying on subject with Tupac, keep this in mind, y'all. Tupac was a dangerous threat. You see, what made Pac a dangerous threat was the fact that during the time Tupac was popular, he was one of those persons that played a major impact in the media, meaning that the name Tupac in the media was one of those top of the line stories, meaning that he was a person so powerful, your story really wasn't all that much of a story if they had another story on talking about Tupac. Whatever story you was talking about during the day they had any incident in the media surrounding Tupac, you weren't gonna get that many views. Tupac in the media was like the Super Bowl. So you got to understand that every time this man was in the media, millions of people tuned into his little interviews and everything. And the media like that. See, that's what I'm telling y'all. They still get money off selling you the revolution too. But this is where the rabbit hole goes deep. They don't care about you being sold the revolution, because the revolution won't be televised. The revolution gonna happen when each one of y'all get up and start going outside, making change right in front of you in your direct neighborhood, starting from within with yourself first. And that's what Tupac represented, because in another one of his lyrics, you know what he said in the same song where he talked about the media? He said, they tell me it's the white man I should fear, but it's my own kind doing all the killing here. Now, what's so deep about that line is I say that all the time, and they call me a coon today. They call me a coon. So back then, Tupac said it, and we was at a different level of consciousness where we was able to embrace the truth. But today, they brainwashed us down with the lies to a level where the truth is like the fake shit. The lies is the real talk. You know, all the God talk, flying on UFOs and making the solution outside of yourself. Tupac wasn't with that. Tupac was talking about getting into politics, opening up stuff for the people and getting active. Ain't no rappers talking about that today. It's all a bunch of dumb talk. See, what Tupac represented was a big threat. So you got to understand that he really had a peculiar relationship with the media, being that the media really needed Tupac because, man, was he hot. Tupac was one of those people that he's like heaven for the media. What I mean is, you know, one of those controversial people that just, when he pop up on your channel, your viewer ratings go up, and he made a lot of people millions of dollars, but he exposed a lot of people. It was a peculiar relationship to where they created a monster that they needed, but they really needed to do without. In other words, when artists like Tupac came on the scene, they saw how it was a potential threat of this Messiah type or this rebellious type soul where we can empower these young men to go and corrupt the youth, but at the same time that can turn against us if we ever get one of these souls like Tupac that end up actually using. What Tupac did was he gave you gangster rap, but he found a way to encode a message of unity inside of that, where ultimately what you would get at the end of his album was fuck the government, Illuminati. So he talked about a lot of gangster stuff in the hood and ghetto today, but he was unique. What Tupac did was actually a form of magic. And I'll really go into it in another video. I'll get into sigil making and even verse writing and how that's all Masonic. But we can even trace this form of rhythmic poetry all the way back to just when we deal with alphabets and the way language started off being created. When you say the ABCs, it's in a rhythmic form. But this is old concepts. I don't want to get into that right now. But Tupac mastered this thing in a way, even the sound of his voice and the way he spoke from his gut. It was all by design and a revolutionary type MC that you just never get again. Being from the East Coast, moving to the West Coast was another thing. You see, because that way Tupac had the roots of true hip hop essence over on the East Coast where he came from. You know, that's the best place to come from if you're talking about being a hip hop artist. We just got to go ahead and say that. Maybe not today, but during the hip hop's conception, if you're talking about being a hip hop artist, oh man, you wish you was from New York during that time. Keep it real, all right? The rest of the regions came on the scene later. Even those regions that came later, like my region, the South, we was inspired by New York. Everyone was inspired by New York. So to get the true essence of hip hop, really being there will do you a good service. So being born from the East Coast, where the spirit of hip hop is prevalent, then moving to the West Coast, where the spirit of rebellion, and we're talking about the riots and the gangs and that type of spirit is prevalent. It created a monster with Tupac. You got to think of those dynamics, people. And you got to think about this peculiar relationship to where they needed Tupac. There wasn't anybody like him around. This man made everybody money. He can just show up and not say a word and make your venue money. He was very powerful. He was also a threat. So his relationship with the media, when I say peculiar, meaning that he spoke out against the media on the media. Think about it, people. These are artists who spoke out against the media on the media. You say, Brother Sanchez, they had to be connected with them snakes, because why else would they let them put their message out on their media and it goes against them? Like I said, these snakes cannot turn down millions of dollars. They cannot turn down the idea. So it's like one of those situations of win-lose. We win because we gonna make millions when Tupac shit drop, but we lose because that brother gonna put some truth bombs in that shit that we just can't talk him out of. Tupac had gained that level of respect, control, and power over his art. He wasn't one of them kind of artists today where they dictate what you can and can't say and all of that. He had a connection with the media where he was in a form of sovereignty with his creation space. They couldn't just come in the studio and tell Tupac what he was going to say. And they couldn't tell him what to say and what not to say on the interview. They got these rappers today by the balls and they got them dumbed down. See, Tupac let them see then that we got to plan and prevent this type of artist right here from ever becoming prevalent on the scene. But when they saw Tupac, they saw something that they could never allow to happen. They saw the type artist that can really overthrow their whole NWO agenda. This man could have infiltrated his way into the White House, into power, based on them letting him into the music industry. They let these young men in the music industry, and they never know they gonna turn out to be a Tupac. They never know Tupac gonna turn out to be a man that's gonna be a damn threat to your whole NWO agenda one day. But see, like I said, when you research who Tupac is and the dynamics surrounding how he evolved, you'll see what I mean. What Tupac represented with Thug Life is the same thing Bob Marley represented with One Love. The concept of one love is no different than Thug Life. But again, Tupac was appealing to a different element, to a low form of the have-nots. All of us at the bottom, but there's some of us that's so far low in the spirit, we gangbanging on these streets and we strapped and we don't care if we live or die because we've sunken to a level where it just don't matter no more, man. It's all or nothing. And Tupac was appealing to those individuals like nobody else could. Now they trying to fill that void today with Farrakhan, but nobody could do it like Tupac. You see, Tupac was anti-media. Keep in mind, Tupac talked shit and spoke out against the media that promoted him. The same media that made him famous, he exposed them. So, like I said, Tupac being dead today opened the door for a lot of their deception to come through, whereas if he was alive, they would have a hard time. They got puppets like Farrakhan in place, and they couldn't have puppets like Farrakhan who turned the Nation of Islam into a Scientology school, and he's priming up all of them for this fake alien invasion. Check out my video on that because I can't talk about that here. Farrakhan being in this position over the NOI, we know it was always a Shriner organization, but Farrakhan's voice will be muffled behind great men like Malcolm X, Khalid Muhammad, and Tupac if these men were mysteriously assassinated. Think about what I just said. Khalid Muhammad, Malcolm X, and Tupac represent the same dynamic Farrakhan appealed to. They appeal to that dynamic. So with them all out the way, Farrakhan's voice is big as hell today. Even when Malcolm was alive, nobody wanted to hear about no Farrakhan. When you look into Malcolm and how he died, you'll realize it was jealousy and hatred because a lot of the Nation of Islam ministers wasn't getting a lot of people in their venues. When it's time for a venue and Malcolm speaking, the majority of the nation at Malcolm venue, if you was a minister in the NOI, you was getting mad at Malcolm at that time because, man, ain't but a few hundred people to hear you speak. Everybody going to hear Malcolm. So people was getting jealous of Malcolm. Malcolm was sincere about the religion, but he found out that a lot of his higher ups wasn't. So Malcolm found out the truth that Tupac found out, that Bob Marley was telling us. Like I said, when Malcolm came back from the Middle East, he was willing to work with all people, but he wasn't willing to work with those elite people at the top. He came back and extended his arm to the have-nots, no matter your color. That's what Bob Marley represent in One Love. That's what Michael Jackson represent in songs like It Don't Matter If You Black or White. And again, I don't want to even talk about Michael right now. That's for the second part. Right now, we still on Tupac, but I'm making these parallels, showing you how the message is the same in all of these people that died. All of these people that die, they have a message today that we call it corny. Think about it. When I say all of the races together need to hold hands and come together with unity, people say, man, that sound corny. They want it to sound corny. Over the years, they made it a stigma and made it sound corny because that's really the only solution for humanity. When you look at the top, they all united. The halves are united, all races. You see, even in Africa, they got the rich black leaders that's working hand in hand with the Jesuits. When you look at Nelson Mandela, black people, no matter what continent you own, is being sold out to this rich cabal. So Farrakhan is one of those puppets who are selling the black people right into the hands of the devil on this land. Even if you're not in the Nation of Islam, he represents the foundation of most of the doctrines in the black conscious community. When you understand how they were seated there, everybody has a Scientology type foundation, a concept to get the people stagnant in their revolution by looking for a solution outside of themselves, whether it be UFOs or Christ or anything of that nature. Real revolutions motivate you to access the God power that's already in you. And that's what Tupac represented. That's what Michael Jackson represented. Michael Jackson told you it's the man in the mirror. Okay? Michael Jackson told you it don't matter if you black or white. Bob Marley told you one love. Tupac told you the media full of dirty tricks. These are people that spoke out with simple messages, but these simple messages posed a threat. And you see that all these people that shared this message, they ended up dying, ended up being killed. And when we talk about Tupac again, he was a big threat because Barack wouldn't be in office today. People like Farrakhan's voice wouldn't be so powerful. And Tupac wouldn't be believing in NASA. Tupac wouldn't be believing in aliens. Ufology is very prevalent in Scientology, and it's all about these imaginary deities that keep the human soul from you accessing your own spiritual potential. Tupac music went against that paradigm. Everything he represented. Now when you look at today, like he said, they tell me it's the white man I should feel, but it's my own people doing all the killing here. Think about it. Malcolm X spoke the same message Tupac spoke. And what happened to them both? They own people killed them. Tupac own people was paid off to kill him. Malcolm X own people killed him when he spoke out against his leaders. Not when he spoke out against the white man, but when he spoke out against the black man. Tupac saw what Malcolm saw. That the first thing about us getting free is dealing with ourselves. You can't ignore yourself and go to a problem outside of you. You got to deal with you first, because it was you how you even got in the problem. That's what we don't want to hear. That's what get you called a coon today. But the same stuff I say, Same stuff Tupac said. This is what get you killed. The same message Michael Jackson spoke here. When you speak out against the media and their lies and deception and bring forth unity among the have-nots, you are a threat. Threats like Tupac, Bob Marley, and Michael Jackson gave them the idea of the artist holograms that you see today. So in other words, they say, you know what? This peculiar relationship that these artists share with the media, whereas the artist makes the media millions of dollars. We need this artist because they got that connection with the people. They got that connection with the consumers, the have-nots. We need them to have that connection with those have-nots, but we don't need them waking them up. We need them having just enough connection for us to get rich. So people like Tupac said, no, I got that connection. Yeah, y'all might be getting rich off me, but I'm finna wake so many people up. I'm finna tear this matrix down. And then I'm gonna run for president. Oh, we gotta get rid of you. They had to get rid of somebody thinking like that. See, he playing chess now. He's playing chess with them now. As opposed to your rappers now that just signing contracts thinking for themselves, fuck the people, they sellouts. But anyway, you see that peculiar relationship, they had to come up with a remedy for that type of behavior, that type of artist. What do we do in a situation where we have an artist, where this artist makes us millions of dollars like Michael Jackson, like Tupac, but on the flip side, their mouth is big as hell and they talk too much and they want to wake people up? What do we do about this? So what they did to come up to a solution for that was they create the holograms. So you notice all of the artists that speak out, but they still make the media millions of dollars. You know, you can't live with them, can't live without them, so to speak. You know, because Michael Jackson, Tupac make the media millions, but they also destroy the matrix. How do we combat this type of relationship? How do we have the type artist that makes us millions, but is quiet, silent, and conform? Well, we just kill that person and turn them into a hologram. So when you think about all of these type artists that I'm telling you about, Tupac, Michael Jackson, who represent this type revolution, if you think about them, see, I live here in Las Vegas, and they have an ongoing hologram show of Michael Jackson over here on the Strip. You can go see Michael Jackson anytime. They had one of Tupac that they do, but his is not ongoing like Michael Jackson. But I say that to say that I don't see too many other holograms. It's crazy that it's always these artists that was a threat to the media, but still made them millions of dollars, who we see they make them into a hologram. In other words, what they did with Tupac and Michael Jackson, they said they talk too much. These two cats are a threat, but their music and their influence over the people, we need that. We need to use that for our agenda, not to mention they sell millions, man. Michael Jackson make a song tomorrow is going to go platinum. Same with Tupac. They don't want to get rid of that. They just want to get rid of that revolution inside of that person, that will to tell the truth that's in the human. And they do that by just killing that person, man, and turning them into a hologram. See, the hologram will do what we tell it to do, and it won't speak out in the interviews, and it won't make up things like Illuminati. So when you go and see Tupac hologram in Las Vegas, it never says Illuminati. So they programmed the kind of Tupac where don't go against, deleted everything about Tupac we hated and just kept the things that'll make us money. So people going to see a version of Tupac that deleted everything, all of the dynamic things about Tupac that made Tupac Tupac. And the only thing they left with is the shell, the mask that Tupac used to drive the real message home. Because Tupac' real message was for the have-nots, unity against the powers. Illuminati, we all struggling on the bottom, need to be turning our attention to the haves. Tupac was political, thinking about running for president. They're not giving you that Tupac in the hologram. They giving you the California love, the party Tupac. Tupac did that because when you in those positions, you have to give the fuckery with the truth. You have to learn how to work in those environments. And Tupac mastered it to the point they had to get rid of him and make him a hologram, just like Michael Jackson. So I hope you guys see what I'm saying here. Tupac and Michael Jackson gave them the concept of the 360 contract, of the hologram artist. Whereas it's going to be even deeper for you artists in the future. They just going to be signing your soul to the contract, and you never know. You go to sleep that night, never wake up, but the show goes on. Really think about what I'm telling you here in this video. Tie the pieces together. It's deeper than you think. Tupac represented a big threat to this nation and their agenda when it comes to seeding their new world order plan into the masses, and also the need to use a black face. There can't be a black face that's in opposition to the black face that they're creating. They've been priming Barack Obama since he was a little bitty boy for his position, but they didn't calculate Tupac into their equation. So when he popped up and they saw him talking politics and they saw how much power he had over the people, they had to get rid of him quick when he was young, because by the time Barack would have been running for president, Tupac would have been running. If he was able to run, he would have won the votes of the people, because the people he appealed to are what represent the majority of the votes, the have-nots. So I hope y'all see how deep this is. Tupac had to be assassinated. Biggie and the whole beef and all of that was just a front. They'll even tell you they didn't really have beef. The media instigated that East Coast, West Coast beef to make you think it was all about that, when really it was all about Tupac getting the hell out of the way. You got to understand how much of a threat this brother was, and to be thinking on politics and having that much power over that many people at his age. So yeah, he was a threat to the New World Order agenda, which includes the Nation of Islam, Farrakhan, and all of these compromising leaders. Why do I say that? Because, like I told you, Tupac despised the media, and they despised him. They tried to kill him and slander him in the media, all while making money off the damn man. So that relationship he had with the media was one of a kind, buddy. And they, like I said, had to get rid of that, preventing that type of relationship happening again with these new contracts you see today with the artists. But when you think about Tupac's relationship with the media and how anti-media, anti-establishment he was, and whenever you saw him in the media, it was against the media itself. Whereas when you look at leaders today like Farrakhan, they got a very good relationship with the media, a very squeaky clean relationship with the networks like CNN and the different broadcast channels. You know, Farrakhan is even cool with Alex Jones. You know, Tupac wouldn't have been cool with Alex Jones today. Tupac was against these government appointed puppets who acting like they helping the people. Tupac wasn't for spookism and fear-mongering. He didn't talk about aliens and spaceships. He talked about the shit on the ground that they want you to ignore. So, understand what I'm telling you here and how deep this rabbit hole goes. It was deeper than some East Coast, West Coast. Even them two brothers, if they was alive, they'll tell you that. Tupac and Biggie was killed by two different groups that had nothing to do with their different entourages. The people who killed Tupac and the people who killed Biggie are shrouded in conspiracy. That wouldn't have been the case if it was genuine beef. If I got a squad of homies beefing with your homies, that's an easy case to solve. Everybody know if two gangs beefing, that makes the investigation easier because it limits the suspects. But if ain't nobody beefing with you and you ain't got no enemies and you just end up dead, that's a mystery. Why am I saying that? Because the people who killed these two brothers are shrouded in mystery to the point when you go to investigating their murders, it even leads you away from the whole East Coast, West Coast beef that was portrayed in the media. When you go to researching the murders and who did the murdering, it was people that had nothing to do with no damn East Coast, West Coast. That was what they got the people involved in. That was what the TV sold us on the TV was East Coast, West Coast. When really Tupac and Biggie, they was trying to squash the beef. When they died, the media told you that the East Coast, West Coast beef was so out of hand that different people was inspired by the beef, different gangs and teenagers, and that these brothers' life was in jeopardy because the East Coast don't like the West Coast. And that was a lie. They created the East Coast, West Coast beef. Them brothers had disagreements and they was going to work it out. But the media kept telling us it was still going on in East Coast versus West Coast, Biggie, Tupac. When on the real, them brothers was squashing it. The media kept it going. So when they died, the only thing we know is, man, that East Coast, West Coast beef is the reason they died. When that ain't the reason they died. When you research the murderers, it's shrouded in mystery. It wasn't like it was a group of East Coast goons that killed Tupac and it was a group of West Coast goons that killed Biggie. It was murderers that's shrouded in mystery. When you look at the dude who supposedly killed Biggie, he was supposedly been a police. And when you look at the Southside Crips that supposedly killed, I believe it was Tupac, they was supposedly been paid off by Puff Daddy, who was also in on killing the man with government officials. This thing go deep. Basically, it had nothing to do with East Coast, West Coast. That was the mask. I live in Vegas. If I get to beefing with somebody in Bama right now, well, how the hell is that West Coast, South Coast beef? That's brother Sanchez versus whoever that is he beefing with beef. But when you give it to the media, there's an agenda. They give you that. Now you got West Coast versus East Coast tension, and they got your emotions involved to hide the fact. So when these two people die, your emotions telling you, man, this East Coast, West Coast shit got out of hand. Because on the media, whether you live on the East Coast, West Coast, if you choose a side when these murders happen, just the fact that you chose a side, you're going to accept the whole idea that it was because some East Coast, West Coast beef. But if they would have never gave you that idea, your emotions would have never got involved in no East Coast, West Coast beef. And you just would have been like, man, it's two cats beefing. And you would have done investigating on exactly how each one of them was murdered. Then that get into the realm of conspiracy and the murderers never been captured. So that's what I'm saying. These brothers was killed for deeper reasons. We understand the threat that Tupac posed. Barack Obama would not be president if Tupac was alive. He would be a huge fucking threat to their system. Tupac is a headache, y'all. That's why I got so much love for that brother. Tupac is a damn headache for the elite, man. And if he was alive now, even more wiser, even more powerful, stronger, with more of a following, and especially with a youth today that's already rebellious, him being the voice of all of that, do you understand the threat that a person like Tupac would pose, being alive on earth at the same time as another powerful rebellious spirit like Michael Jackson got the heat on these media devils? That's too much power, y'all. We talking about individuals. Tupac and Michael Jackson combined, if they was alive, would have a bigger voice than the damn Pope. Do you hear what I'm telling you? They got statues all over the world right now where people worshiping Michael Jackson to this day. It's Negroes walking around. You got grandparents and fathers walking around with thug life on their chest right now. Not just 1, 2 of them. We talking about millions, thousands at least of men of all races right now walking around with thug life on their chest because of Tupac. And again, that's one love, the same concept Bob Marley gave us when he mysteriously died. Everybody that gather up the have-nots against the haves, this Robin Hood concept, them be the targets. Keep that in mind. Think about the people I mentioned and what they represented and how much of a threat they would be to the establishment plans and agenda today. They cannot have two people like Michael Jackson and Tupac alive at the same time, y'all. Think about it. Michael Jackson, Tupac, Bob Marley, all alive at the same time. Why is it these specific people that have so much power over groups of people and they represent a unified message against the establishment, they end up dying? We never have two of these kind of people alive at the same time on the earth, and y'all can't see what's going on. People, I got to get out of here. I didn't want this video to be this long. I hope I drove my message home in a way that you see what I'm saying here. And I hope that you join me for part 2, because there's so much more. I want to talk about Michael Jackson. I'm going to prove to you that he was a flat earther and that he was well aware of the mother goddess concepts, and also build on Michael Jackson the same way I just build here on Tupac. So the second half of this, we're going to move on to Michael Jackson. Be on the lookout for that. Shout out to my lovely family of patrons, and shout out to every last one of you that subscribe and that support what I do. Remember, new uploads every Thursday. Peace and much love.